The gut microbiome research of the past decade points to one pattern more consistently than any other: diversity. Not which specific bacteria you have, but how many different species are represented. And the strongest predictor of that microbial diversity turns out to be the variety of plants in your diet, not the quantity of any one food. Most gut health content focuses on probiotics. Probiotics are useful, but they're one piece of a more complete picture. What you feed the bacteria already living in your gut matters as much as which bacteria you introduce. The channel has covered the microbiome broadly in a previous video. This one goes specifically into the foods, the research behind them, and how to use them practically. The 30-plant rule. The American Gut Project, one of the largest citizen science microbiome studies ever conducted, found that people who ate 30 or more different plant foods per week had significantly more diverse gut microbiomes than those who ate 10 or fewer, regardless of whether they identified as omnivores, vegetarians, or vegans. The diversity advantage held even when comparing people who ate meat to those who didn't. 30 plants sounds like a lot. It's more achievable than it sounds because everything counts. Herbs, spices, nuts, seeds, legumes, fruits, vegetables, whole grains. A handful of mixed nuts is 4 or 5 plants. A spice blend on roasted vegetables can add 3 or 4 more. A grain bowl with farro, chickpeas, and 4 different vegetables covers a significant portion of a week's quota in one meal. The goal isn't to change what you eat entirely. It's to add variety within the categories you're already using, rotating the grains you cook with, swapping one vegetable for a different one each week, and using whole spices rather than single herb seasoning all contribute to the count. Fermented foods. A 2021 Stanford study published in Cell found that a high fermented food diet significantly increased microbiome diversity and decreased markers of inflammation, outperforming a high-fiber diet alone over the same 10-week period. The fermented food group consumed an average of 6 servings daily: yogurt, kefir, fermented cottage cheese, kimchi, sauerkraut, kombucha, and fermented vegetable brines. The critical detail is that fermented foods must contain live active cultures to have a microbiome effect. Shelf-stable sauerkraut in a can has been pasteurized, which kills the bacteria. The refrigerated, unpasteurized version does not. The same distinction applies to kimchi, miso, and pickled vegetables. The label matters. Look for live and active cultures or raw and unpasteurized. Consistency matters more than volume. 2 servings of fermented food daily over several weeks produces measurable microbiome changes. An occasional serving does not. Prebiotic foods. Probiotics introduce bacteria. Prebiotics feed the bacteria already there. Without adequate prebiotic fiber, beneficial bacteria introduced through fermented foods or supplements don't have the substrate to colonize and survive. The best studied prebiotics are inulin and fructooligosaccharides, found in garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus, Jerusalem artichokes, and slightly underripe bananas. These fibers pass undigested through the small intestine and are fermented by bacteria in the colon. That fermentation produces short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, which is the primary fuel source for the cells lining the gut wall. A healthy gut wall depends on adequate butyrate. Low butyrate production is consistently associated with gut permeability and inflammatory gut conditions. Garlic and onion are among the most potent prebiotic sources per gram, which makes them a practical daily addition even in small amounts, cooked into almost anything. The cooking doesn't eliminate their prebiotic effect. Polyphenols. Polyphenols are plant compounds that most gut bacteria can't digest directly, but that specific beneficial strains ferment and convert into anti-inflammatory metabolites. Blueberries, raspberries, dark chocolate above 70% cacao, green tea, extra virgin olive oil, and pomegranate are all high in polyphenols. Research has found that regular polyphenol consumption is associated with increased populations of lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium, 2 genera consistently linked with positive gut health outcomes. The effect builds over weeks of consistent intake, and is most pronounced when polyphenol-rich foods are part of a varied diet, rather than taken in supplement form. The food matrix, the whole food context, appears to matter for how polyphenols are fermented and absorbed. Dark chocolate and green tea are among the most practical daily sources. 2 to 3 cups of green tea, or a small serving of high-quality dark chocolate, reach the polyphenol threshold used in most studies. What disrupts the microbiome? The most useful gut health information isn't only about what to add. Knowing what disrupts the microbiome is equally important. Emulsifiers, additives like carboxymethylcellulose and polysorbate 80 found in many ultra-processed foods, have been shown in research to disrupt the gut microbiome at concentrations found in the everyday food supply. Studies in both animal models and human trials have found they thin the mucus layer that protects the gut lining. Artificial sweeteners have also drawn significant research attention. Sucralose and saccharin in particular have been associated with microbiome disruption and altered glucose metabolism in controlled trials. The evidence is not conclusive enough to be prescriptive, but it is consistent enough to be worth noting. Neither finding is a reason for panic. They're a reason to understand that gut health is built on both sides, what you add and what you reduce. Gut microbiome research is still developing, and definitive answers remain limited. What holds up consistently across studies is the pattern: more variety, more plants, more fermented food, fewer industrial ingredients. The specifics are still being worked out. The direction is reasonably clear. This video is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice.